Hey guys, I'm back with another video, and this time I want to share with you some Russian movies which I think you should watch, especially if you're a cinema buff or if you're learning the language. So for this video I picked up 4 movies, 2 of which were shot in the Soviet period and the rest is more or less modern. And to be honest, that was pretty hard for me to choose among the modern movies because even though we have quite a lot of action movies and comedies, but they all seem to be alike and there is nothing really interesting or outstanding, which is pretty sad, and it makes me feel quite nostalgic about the Soviet period because it seems to be the time when the best movies that we have were shot. But let's talk about the movies, and this time again I divided all of them into 4 different categories by genre, and I want to start with the first category, which is a screen adaptation. And I should say this genre was very popular in the Soviet period, and it is quite interesting that not only Russian books were screened, but also the novels written by British, French and American writers as well. And I think that probably one of the best examples of this genre is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, a Dr. Watson TV series. And I'm pretty sure most of you know the plot and the main characters because now there are so many movies and TV series based on Conan Doyle's novels. And there are so many actors who played the main character, like Benedict Cumberbatch, Robert Downey Jr. But for me personally, Sherlock Holmes, played by Vasily Livanov, will always be the best and the most iconic, just because he is so charming and so intelligent, and the whole TV series is very nice. It is very good for a family watch, and I know that this movie was shown to the Queen and Her Majesty really liked it, so I think it means something. And so if you are a true Sherlock Holmes fan and if you have seen all the movies, all the TV series, you should definitely watch this one. Okay, next up is a comedy, and again it was so hard for me to choose among all the brilliant Soviet comedies that we have, but I decided to pick up the movie which I actually mentioned in my New Year tag, and this is called Ivan Vasilievich Back to the Future. This is a story about a Soviet engineer who one day invented the time machine. After a series of failures, it starts working properly and he proudly shows his invention to his guests, and they all go back in time, specifically into the period when Ivan the Terrible was the king. Then something goes wrong and suddenly time machine breaks and the character's friends get trapped in the past, whereas Ivan the Terrible finds himself in the 70s. And all the characters have lots of adventures and really awkward situations, mainly because Ivan the Terrible and the engineer's neighbor look exactly the same. And the reason I really recommend watching this movie is, first, it is hilarious and it is really very funny and it's clever and witty, and second, the acting is brilliant. And there is one actor in this movie who plays 2 parts, but he does it so well that when you are watching you actually think there are 2 different actors playing. So for me this is always a sign of good acting. So yeah, definitely give it a watch. Okay, the next movie is more for those of you who are into fantasy films, and it is called The Day Watch. Actually it is a sequel and it is the second part, so the first one is The Night Watch. And for me personally, the second part is much better in every aspect, like plot, acting and visual effects. And I think it will be okay if you skip the first part and start watching with the second one. At least this is what I did. Just read the description and that will be enough. The action of this film takes place in modern Moscow, which is inhabited by witches, vampires, werewolves, etc. They call themselves the Others and belong either to the Night Watch or the Day Watch, which are 2 organizations representing the good and the evil. Obviously they are enemies, but somehow they have to coexist in order to keep the world balanced. However, this time the balance is in danger because of mysterious choke of fate, which can change the past and gives unlimited power to its owner. So the members of both organizations do their best to find it first. But for the main character Anton Gorodetsky, this quest is more than a job. It is something really very personal, and it is closely connected with his son and with some of the choices he made in the past, which he now deeply regrets about. And I should say that this is probably one of my favorite Russian movies which were shot recently, just because it depicts modern Moscow, and even though it is a fantasy movie, everything looks so realistic, and it makes me believe that there is probably another world which is around us and which we are unaware of, which is pretty cool, right? And also I think if you are planning to go to Moscow in the future, you can just watch this movie and have the slightest idea of how it looks like. And the last movie which I want to talk about is called The Hipsters, and it is a musical. So I know there are a lot of people who hate musicals, but I absolutely love them. And besides, The Hipsters is not a typical musical. Obviously there'll be a lot of dancing and singing, but the plot itself is very good. It is very solid and it is so dramatic, but at the same time there are some funny moments, and just the whole movie is very bright and jazzy. And when I saw it for the first time, I was really impressed and I was just blown away. The action of the movie takes place in 1955 in Moscow, and the main character Miles, a member of the Komsomol, falls in love with Polly, who is one of the hipsters. These are young people who listen to jazz and rock and roll, wear bright clothes, enjoy life, and just basically have fun. So the young man desperately wants to see Polly again, and he goes to the Broadway, which is actually Gorky Street, but it doesn't really matter. And this is the place where all the hipsters usually meet. So when Polly and her friends recognize Miles, they start making fun of him and make it pretty clear he doesn't belong here. But the character doesn't give up, and instead he tries to do his best to become one of the hipsters so that one day Polly could love him back. And what I really like about this musical is that even though it has a happy ending, it is so realistic, which makes you think that this story might have actually happened with your parents or with your grandparents. So if you are into musicals, I really recommend watching The Hipsters because you will love it. But if you aren't, just watch it anyway because it is simply a masterpiece. So these were 4 Russian movies which I wanted to share with you guys, and I will leave all the links down below so that you could watch them online and with English subtitles. Feel free to leave me the comments about the movies which I mentioned in this video, or maybe about some of the movies which you watched. And yeah, это все на сегодня. Пока!